Um, yeah, so my name is Walter French. I'm from Compass Informatics in Dublin. My colleague Phil Baldacchino Stewart is sitting out at the back there, and a couple of colleagues as well are joining on Zoom, including Reinal. Reinal was responsible for the delivery of the project, guiding the platform development as well, so working with our developers, our analysts, our data managers in the development of the Echoes platform itself. So I just want to give you a quick summary of a couple of things that I'm going to be talking about. Compass were heavily involved, obviously, in Work Package 7, which was the platform development. And I'm just going to highlight some of the key objectives and the deliverables out of that work package. I'm going to talk to you through briefly as well the development process, I suppose, how we designed and implemented the solution. Touch briefly on data management, so not just, I suppose, within the platform itself, but where we got data and how we interacted with the other work packages as well. And then, you know, Jyoti touched on it as well, just the legacy for the platform, and then some other project closure activities. Okay. So just to highlight some of the key objectives and the deliverables from the project, I suppose one of the key things in the delivery of the platform is to ensure that there is legacy. And with anything, you know, when it comes to managing websites, managing applications, there is certain hosting costs associated with the application. So we wanted to ensure that we came out of the project with a solution that could be picked up by someone else, that could be deployed to someone else's on-premise environment or to cloud infrastructure. So that was one of the key deliverables for us, to ensure that we had a product that was developed using, you know, as much as possible open source technologies, and we have achieved that, and then that it is documented as to how to deploy that to various environments. Other key objectives, obviously, is to develop tools that are fit for purpose. So, you know, our brief was to develop a solution that would allow managers and policymakers and people in the field to actually support them in the management of habitats where these species live. So what we have developed essentially is a site management system that has workflows built into it that will allow those people to create their own specific areas, but then also monitor actions within those areas. I've touched on it as well. It's just to integrate data from other work packages. So Walter in his presentation and Colm and others as well highlighted some of the data and the results that have been produced from the other work packages. So again, ultimately the objective for us was to ensure that we get those data into the platform and we disseminate those data out. And also, I suppose it's key is to develop the tools that support advanced management of these habitats and these sites. I suppose what you see on the front end in terms of the application itself is just that. It is a front end. There's a lot of back end processing that has been implemented, a lot of code that has been written to facilitate the calculation of NDVI data from the latest available satellite imagery to other processes and processing chains that are reading directly from Sentinel Hub, Copernicus data as well, using the available remote sensing imagery. And then the final point there is just to develop that roadmap for the platform adoption and continuity as well, to ensure that we are producing all of the materials that will allow someone else to pick up the platform. So as Jyoti had noted, all of the code will be hosted in GitHub in a dedicated Echoes account, but we will also be putting documentation and links to videos as to how to install and spin up an environment where users can start using the platform themselves. Okay, so I'm just going to outline briefly, I suppose, on the development process of the platform. Again, going back to Jyoti's presentation, I think we probably timed it well, just switching those two around, but it's just that key thing was around stakeholder engagement. I suppose Compass Informatics, we're experts in the development of software, development of applications as well. We're very much domain focused as well. So typically when we work on a project for any of our clients, we will usually have one of our analysts, our business analysts, get involved and understand the problem area. And I think that's somewhere as well that, for example, Rheinl has been key to the success of the project in understanding the technical requirements, but then also understanding the domain. So I think out of all of those stakeholder discussions, we were able to take the requirements and the feedback coming back from the users and the people involved in those stakeholder engagement meetings and actually translating that into the technical solution. On the implementation side, so we followed very much an agile development methodology, and I think it suited it in a project like this where the workshops weren't all front loaded. You know, we looked to engaging the users, engaging the stakeholders, and finding out more about what they wanted, and then following an agile development process allowed us to adapt the solution while delivering some functionality, allowing it to be reviewed, and then redeveloping it where appropriate. And there was also a significant amount of research, I suppose, into the solution development as well, particularly on the back end, on the EO processing chains, looking at different options like Creo DIAS and other options in platforms to use to support the analysis of the remote sensing data. Okay, I'm not going to dwell on this slide too long. This is an architecture diagram. For anyone who wants further details, feel free to talk to me afterwards. And again, as I mentioned, there will be detailed documentation around the technical architecture. But I suppose what this is just there to do is to demonstrate, I suppose, that there are lots of different components running in the back end as well that deliver that front end solution. You know, from the processing chains that I've mentioned to databases, to the different environments, the front-end applications itself. So again, if you do want to find out any more detail about this, just please have a chat to me afterwards. Okay, and it was at this point that we were going to do the application demo, but unfortunately we won't be able to do that today. But I just wanted to highlight, I suppose, some of the key features and functionality that's available within the application itself. So the application is site focused. You know, one of the first things that you would do is actually create your sites of interest. And what happens when a site is created, and you can see Ballyteague and then some subsites within Ballyteague shown in the image in the foreground there. What happens when you create a site is that site is sent to the back end, and then requests for remote sensed data, remote sensed imagery will be made just specific around that area. And what we will do is then we will create all of the different products and services that you see actually in the front end, like your NDVI, any of the other data, the time series analysis, etc. So by even creating a site, you know, it doesn't start to, you know, calculate data or analyze data from that point. It goes all the way back and even looks back at some of the Landsat data, the Landsat 4 data even that's available, I think, from the early 80s. So it's that workflow that's kind of key as well to providing the context information that any of the site managers will use in the analysis of their area. I'll just skip on to the next slide. So this is a time series, and this is a time series layer. It's actually some of the data that Walter has produced in the classification, the habitat classification exercises. And then you can actually see here, I hope you can make it out, that these are some actually records of geese, sorry, of curlew that have been found through the work in the other work packages as well. So what we're doing here, I suppose, is we're bringing data that's been captured from the other work packages into the platform, allowing it to be visualized and accessible by anyone, I suppose, who wants to see it. On the left-hand side here, you'll see that we have a fairly extensive legend here of all of the different land cover types. And then if you look up here at the top, sorry, you can see that there is just a I don't have a pointer here, but that's the Legend tab, obviously. And then in the middle tab, you have active layers. You can change the opacity of different layers. Any of the typical map tools that you would normally have are implemented within the solution. But then also there's pop-ups on the data layers themselves, and some of them can even include images as well for further information and further detail. And then on the left-hand side here, it's data sets. So these are generally all of the data sets that are available within the map viewer itself. Many of these are themed, so you can expand out using the directional arrows, and you get lots of different data layers there as well. So again, in terms of the summary of the workflow, I suppose the idea would be that any managers or any site managers that are looking to use the system, that they would map their own sites, then they would build up a profile of those locations, and then they can start to trigger alerts based on those locations. So alerts could be, for example, integration with some weather data, so that if they know that there's, an extreme weather event coming, or extensive rain, or whatever the case may be, that they would get a warning about that, and they would be able to configure that in the application for themselves, and set their own parameters as to what those triggers are. Then take action. There's functionality there to record actions that have been made. Obviously, actions are made on the ground themselves, but it does allow an audit of any actions that have been made within the sites themselves. And then using other data sets that are in the system supports the plan for change. So combined different data sets. It is supposed to be a decision support system. That's the key objective. It is supposed to, I suppose, present as much information to the user as possible. Even the back end itself, it's an administrative portal that different layers can be added, can be configured as well, specific to user needs. Okay, and again, yeah, we've touched on this a little bit, but just, I suppose, it's to really highlight that point as well, that there are a lot of data in the existing platform as it is, but those data have come from other platforms. When we do actually get to the end of the project and we do publish the latest code base up to the GitHub account, that won't include any of the data, but it will allow you to add your own data and to create your own data sets in there. Yeah, I think we've kind of covered all of those, and that's a link to the main site, echoes.echoesdemo.compass.ie. That's the current version. In time, before the end of the project, we will have another version of that application running in an AWS environment as well. And again, that's a part of the project objectives, to ensure that we can deliver it into a cloud infrastructure as well. So we will be able to send that on, and I think Cronal will be able to send around these slides so people can get that link if they wanted to.
Yes, maybe not send them around, but certainly let everybody know where you could see
okay.
the presentations from today. Yeah.
Grand. Okay,
Thanks very much.
that's it. Okay, thanks very much.